Hi folks, so today we are looking at economic change in the UK. This is a topic from the paper 2 part of the GCSE AQA exam series, and the question that we're looking at is how can modern sort of development, modern industrial development, be made environmentally sustainable? And this kind of question could be as much as a 9 marker, could certainly be a 6 marker, so it's a good one to be prepared for. And the keywords we're looking at here today is environmentally sustainable. Okay, and we know that sustainable sort of means something that will last in the long term. Now, please excuse my factory, but generally speaking, factories of old are large, unattractive buildings releasing a great deal of pollution into the surrounding area. Now, there's 3 main ways that they pollute places. The first one is our air pollution. The second is sort of visual pollution. They don't look nice. It's never nice to sort of see factories around and about. And thirdly is water pollution, so how they sort of affect kind of waterways. Now, all 3 of these are kind of negative. So we've got air, water and visual pollution. Now, luckily, factories are changing. The UK is still building factories, we're still producing goods, but we're doing it, luckily, in a much more sustainable way. Now, your case study for this topic is a factory on the south coast of England, near to where I teach, which is the Royce factory, producing, of course, British motor cars. Now, the really clever thing about the Rolls-Royce factory is it has an enormous green roof, or living roof. It's actually the largest living roof in all of Europe. I'm going to put biggest. Now, the reason we call it a living roof is because it is quite literally alive. It contains plants that have, well, some of them roots, some of them smaller root systems, but things like succulents, other plants, flowering plants, grasses, a range of different ones, and they offer habitat for wildlife. So insects will visit, butterflies will visit, bees will visit. I'm very good at drawing bees, give that a go. Might be a bit better at butterflies. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. So what we see is with these visiting insects, we see an ecosystem starting, a small habitat, and that leads to an increase in biodiversity, one of your keywords. Biodiversity, of course, is the number of different species, a large amount of species of different types of wildlife. And that is obviously a good thing. So a nice big smiley face there. Now, not only is this green roof providing a habitat, but it's doing something rather wonderful with kind of rainfall. So as the droplets of water fall down, they are actually intercepted by the roof in a word we call interception. Okay, or you could call that intercepted. Okay, so what happens, instead of the rainfall reaching the ground and falling away as runoff and entering the rivers quickly, it's captured by the green roof. And that is wonderful because that then in turn actually reduces flooding and reduces that flood risk. Because much of that water may actually evaporate, or it might be soaked up by the plants, so it won't all eventually make its way to the rivers, which is a wonderful thing, especially in an area which can be prone to flooding. Now, not only does it have this sort of wonderful roof, but it also has some really large glass windows at the front of the building. Now, these large glass windows are facing south, so they take in all that direct sunlight, and that has a brilliant effect on the amount of electricity. I'll try and draw a light bulb that's needed. So the amount of electricity is reduced because you've got that natural light, but you've also got less electricity perhaps for heating, which is in turn going to bring down the energy footprint of the building. It still has an energy footprint, but it's lower. I guess we could try and put a foot there, couldn't we? So this has actually been worked out by the clever people at Rolls-Royce, and it is in fact a saving of 30%. So that's 30% less energy needed to make every motor car. There we go. Now that's just a little bit about the building that you can use in your exam question, and you'll be able to point, evidence, explain, really go into depth on some of those. But around the site, around the facility, Rolls-Royce has planted trees. Lots of trees. 400,000 trees to be precise, which is a staggering number of trees planted. And they're not all the same tree. There is in total 100 different species, which is a great thing. Again, bringing us back to that biodiversity, it's going to mean that there is again that rise in wildlife and different species of plants and animals around the site. Now, trees, as we know, are wonderful things, and one of the best things that they do is they actually take in and they absorb harmful gases, particularly carbon dioxide, CO2. They take that in from the atmosphere and they actually store it in their trunks. Now, because they're doing that, they are actually reducing what we call the enhanced greenhouse effect. That is climate change at its worst. So having these trees there is reducing that and helping, everybody out. So we're delighted that they are there. But that's all the positives. The negatives. Okay, there are some, not many, but a couple. So the negatives are, number one, factories require workers. Okay, there's a road coming in here. Lots of them, in fact. Okay, and all of those workers come to work by car. And the reason that they do that is that the factory is slightly out of the way, so it's not terribly easy to get there by train or bus. So what we find is there is actually an increase in what we call congestion, which can cause things like air pollution and other things to occur. So the main sort of problem is congestion, traffic, and air pollution resulting from that. And that's just literally due to the sort of workers at Rolls-Royce who operate. This factory is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with various different people working at different shifts. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that this wonderful factory has actually been built in an area known as the South Downs. Now, the South Downs is a natural place, lots of woodland, lots of trees, lots of wonderful places to go walking and biking, and loads of nature. You know, it's a really special place. It's a green area with very few buildings. And the factory has been built in this area. So because of that, we see what is known as a loss of greenfield sites. So all of the car park, the factory and so on is using up that nature, that green area, and that's why it is actually a loss. But I think it more than compensates with all of the trees that have been planted and the strategies that it uses within the building to reduce its carbon footprint. And we know Rolls-Royce are a responsible company, and we know that they're continually looking at different ways to continue bringing that number down. So there you have it, your economic change in the UK, paper 2, modern industrial development being made environmentally sustainable.